Also, this panel makes me remember, I do support women's rights, but I also support women's wrongs, and this woman's wrongs in particular, and I cannot wait to see them be committed.
Welcome to The Story Thinker, a Webtoons and Witcher podcast for superfans with scene-by-scene analysis. Featuring sharp co-hosts for a fuller picture, we dive deep into character psychology, relationships, and theories. We'd love it if you could like, subscribe, comment, and rate us on all podcast platforms and social media. For bonus content, you can support The Story Thinker on Patreon. Let's begin. Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 149, Forlorn Fury. And we are here with Bundin and Ocean, and welcome back to the podcast, Fwoot.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Which, yeah, if you have been on the podcast at all for any amount of time, you will know that Fwoot is a Darcy fan. This is a Darcy episode, ergo, Fwoot is on the episode.
Yeah, I come crawling out of the walls whenever we just get that little crumb of them. And Mindy has been very gracious and has allowed me on with very short notice. So thank you, Mindy.
Well, yes, thank everyone. So
I'd be sad if we didn't have Fwoot on this episode. This is definitely one that Fwoot would like. I was like, oh, Foot's gonna dig into this one.
It's very funny actually, because I saw some people were sending me screenshots and they were like, where are you? Yeah. I woke up 20 minutes after the episode had dropped. I was enjoying a very nice nap and I completely forgot about the update.
Yeah, right. It's like Murphy's Law. It'll always, the one time that you are sleeping during an update, it's actually your episode.
Yeah, it was the first time in 2 years. The last time it happened, I think, was like the fake dating episode, which is like, wow.
That's a while
that
ago.
Was also very chaotic return too. Like I wake up and everyone's like, Kieran and Lauren are dating, and I'm like, what? Whiplash.
All right, so we begin the episode with a dish shattering. It's already dramatic, and we have this super fancy house, and it's like just like keeps going and going and going. Long scream, and then this really fancy house. Everything is white, white and beige, very ornate, very fancy. We have a gentleman reading the newspaper, a woman drinking something, and a butler with like a towel or whatever, napkin. And the scream continues, and the man in the house probably said, "What?" And the woman in the house say, "What was that?" And they look at each other. They all look more fancy stuff. I'm just thinking about the amount of time Soph spent drawing like these really fancy backgrounds.
I wouldn't expect anything less for like the Darcy household.
Oh yeah, definitely. When I saw like the gore warning and I was like, okay. And then I saw the house and I'm like, okay. And I saw the family and I'm like, who are these guys? And it hit me and I was like, oh no. Like it took me a second to like realize what had gone on. And I was like, oh God. And I need to remind myself that she's not actually dead, because we see her in that one flash forward from the beginning of the season, but I keep forgetting, and I'm like, dang, Kieran kind of messed up.
Oh, I didn't forget at all. It was very interesting actually to read the episode knowing that Darcy isn't dead, and it's really interesting because it was like, on one hand it was very dramatic, but it was also not as dramatic because we know that it's not like real.
I wonder if that's like, again, I feel like if you're someone who's binging the series, you might like read all of a season 3 in a day potentially. So imagine like you're reading it, you kind of see the narrating, but it falls in the back of your mind. So someone could like read this and then not remember potentially. So that must be crazy. But like most of us, we're kind of like, okay, Nira's alive. So like as soon as I was like, oh, she's screaming, fake murder, fake heart, let's go. Look at everybody being sad about this girl who's not dead. I'm chilling. She's not dead. Like,
I kept wondering like whose heart that was. Like I was just like, okay, is that like an animal's heart? But like surely they have testing or something in this day and age where they could like figure out that it's not actually her heart and she's alive somehow.
I was thinking that. I mean, I guess we should really save it, but like I don't think they're gonna test the heart. But let's get there. We're whatever. Okay. It's not. Yeah. So they will rush down a hallway. More servants come. And then you see a maid sitting. It looks like she's backed away into the wall. She is shaking, and the mistress of the house says, "Rose, dear God, what is going on?" and she's just maid is just pointing. Her face is ashen, and they open the door. They look very nervous about what they're going to find, and then the dad, I assume it's the dad, right? He says, Nera. And then this lady is not her mom, right? Because I
feel like that is her mom.
Is her mom? I'm trying to remember, because that picture that got dropped that was never removed. Okay, fine.
She's got purple eyes, so we can assume like mom, if it's not mom's sister, but yeah.
Okay, fine.
I'm like 90% sure that the picture that got deleted looks a lot like Nera's mom. It might just be the bun, but
okay, fine. So,
I think she was at the Sinclair's wedding.
Right.
Fine.
So they drop and they are gazing upon the gory scene. It is Nera's bedroom, covered in blood everywhere. The carpet has been like it's tipped up. Blood on the curtains, blood on the upper curtains, blood on the bed. And then you see like a trail of blood out at the balcony. So it looks as though the body has been dragged out. And then, of course, on the bed, it's so gross. There's a heart with the purple hyacinth and lots of blood.
You know, for a second when it panned down, I thought it was like a crab for like a split second. Because like, you know, I'm from the tropics. I see crabs when I go by the ocean. I was like, oh, crab. And I'm like, oh no, that's a heart. Okay. Because I was like, why would like, you know, just like within like a millisecond, I was like, oh, crab, why would a crab be there? Oh no, wait, it's a heart. Ha.
Yeah, so now we can discuss the heart ocean. Well, I guess first question, whose heart is it?
I feel like it's got to be an animal, right? Like, unless Kieran just killed somebody else recently, but I feel like he would tell Lauren that.
I feel like next episode we're gonna get the answers, because I feel like next episode we're gonna see the whole process of how they planned all of this.
Oh my god, yes.
I would love to see that, but I would assume that it's like a pig's heart, because Lily mentioned this in the chat earlier in Discord, but I also was thinking this as well. Pigs are often used to replace humans in like, you know, anatomy, because like, you know, the skin is similar, the organs are similar, and pigs' hearts have been used before to kind of replace human hearts as like, you know, as props or like whatever, surgeons like learning, whatever. But another thought that came up as we were talking now, it's kind of morbid, like, because they talked about like him potentially finding bodies. I feel like finding organs would be a lot easier. So he could have fully just found like a human heart at like a morgue or like one of their, whoever that contact was or whatever. Like, I don't know, like anything where a lot of bodies are, just find a heart. But I would think it's an animal heart personally.
Yeah, I had, when I first like reading or reacting to the episode, I had also brought up the heart thing, but I had more so connected it to like the fairy tale Snow White, because like fairy tale connections are not lost on Purple Hyacinth. I mean, we have like Little Match Girl Bella, you know, Kieran makes at least one Cinderella reference. And so this kind of was giving me the huntsman bringing the queen Snow White's heart, except it's not her heart, it's the heart of a pig. Also what Bundin said about the next episode explaining everything that happened, I cannot tell you guys how excited I am for that, because I've been hoping, manifesting for Kieran and Darcy to interact. Like, imagine this man, you know, on the same level of Hal Pendragon comes into your room and he's like, girly, we're gonna figure it out. I mean, I feel like Nera is the kind of person to just be like, hell yeah, oh my god, where are we going? And you know, she helps with like painting the curtains blood, because I mean, like, look at the blood on the curtains by the window. That's overkill, you know. He's dragging her out at that point. You know, maybe he can get away with the blood on the curtains around the bed, but the window, that's kind of far away, you know. But I like to think that they just went ham together painting pig's blood,
I will say,
all around the room.
I like that description, except the only thing that gives me pause is like, oh my god, how her parents are reacting. Like, I'm assuming she and her parents have a reasonably good relationship, and this is just like devastating for them. So I'm sure she would have enjoyed it, like, if she wasn't hurting her parents, you know, knowing the reaction her parents are going to have.
I mean, obviously, like, I was just thinking that as well. Like, as we began reading, it's like, oh yeah, her parents are probably like devastated. But we also know that she's kind of had a strained relationship with like the family expectations, like society, whatever. Her parents are very much like Will's parents, kind of pushing her towards Will and stuff. But I also don't think that would make her like completely cold and heartless to like their own feelings. But like, you know, at the end of the day, if it's this or like, because if Kieran doesn't do it, someone else will. So she will go along with it, because her being like actually alive in secret is far better than her actually being dead. So I think it's just something that she will do. But I would love Darcy kind of being like, you need help like spreading the blood. I'd like, we need to make it look believable, sure. Like, but
I like to think, oh, sorry.
No, good.
I like to think Kieran is slightly concerned with how willing this one noble woman is to helping him fake her own death. He'd be like, okay, I get
see why Bella likes her so much.
Yeah, right. I think you would know that anyone who Bella is, you know, in love with would be an interesting person.
I can definitely see Darcy making the trade-off of her parents not knowing that she's actually alive in order to preserve her well-being, because Kieran, he probably would have told her that like, hey, we gotta go, we can't tell anyone, okay, even your parents. If not, they might leak something, you know, someone might find out. If they have any information that you're alive, lights out for them.
It's like anybody's seen Fullmetal Alchemist Brotherhood? There's a whole scheme very similar to this, with one of the side characters having to fake their own death, and you think that they're dead for like a good like few episodes, and then it's kind of revealed that this whole intricate plot happened to make it so, and we see the planning of it. So it's like, yes, I want the PH version of her kind of having to grapple with like lying about her death to her parents, and for a short amount of time Bella potentially, and like all these other things for the sake of her own life. And, you know, again, they'd prefer for her to be actually alive in secret than really dead.
I feel like this is like a good opportunity for her to like restart her life, considering like when she was on that date with Will, she was saying like, oh, her parents have other plans for her, and she's kind of rolling her eyes, talking about how she has to have an heir, and being gay, that's obviously not in the agenda. So I feel like this could actually almost be like a little bit refreshing for her to just be like, cut ties. She didn't have to explain herself or explain why she's doing what she's doing. So I feel like she could have some fun with this, with the drama of just painting the room.
I do wonder though, like, Arthur, will we get to see Arthur's reaction to this?
Oh,
because
baby.
Like, I would not want him to think that Nayra is dead for the rest of his life, you know?
He's the only royal we like and protect in this household. So yes,
okay.
Dakin, we sometimes like thin ice. Thin ice.
I like Dakin still, but also it's like his sussiness kind of like bubbles under the surface. But yeah,
we like, but beware. Yeah, I'm curious to see. I'm hoping. First of all, I don't think Darcy's going to remain dead for the whole comic. Like, my assumption is that at some point by the end of the story, like, there'll be this reveal, and whatever happens will happen. A big drama, blah blah blah. And I'm assuming that, you know, all will be restored, and like people get to go back to like their, you know, identities and lives. So I'm assuming that won't be forever. But yeah, I'm curious to see if we'll see a little bit more of their like devastation, or how she feels about her parents thinking she's dead. I think in the past I've expressed a dislike for Nayra just completely running off. I think she has business in Ardhalis, and I hope she can return to it. Whether that be in like the overhaul of the government or something like that.
Make Nayra prime minister. Hell yeah. I'd vote for
get her
her.
voted in.
Yeah, she's already, you know, knows the palace ways. All right, so now we go to the next dramatic scene. This part also like killed my heart. Oh my gosh, I felt so bad. So we're in the APG office, and there's Will and Lauren are at a desk, and away from them there's two officers who are whispering to each other. And Lauren's talking, hey, can you sign here, Will? Yeah, just a sec, while these other people are talking. And someone says, did you hear what happened this morning in District 12? And then someone says, yeah, the Purple Hyacinth struck again, that bastard. And Will and Laura are like, you know, looking up. Oh gosh. And they both glance over. And I was paying very careful attention to Lauren, by the way, because I was like, did Kieran tell her or did he not tell her? So from all appearances in this scene, she she appears to be completely unknowledgeable. I'm very impressed.
You know what it reminds me of? You remember when they got the first loon letter and Lauren was also like very confused about it, acting concerned, asking questions, whatever. Like looking back, because like I was like, Lauren probably knows, or at the very least, she knows that Kieran wouldn't like you know, she knows something else would be wrong if she doesn't know already. So once again, Lauren showing that she's a great actress when she needs to be.
Very impressed. And someone asks, who did he kill this time? A highborn lady, Darcy's daughter. She was one of the queen's court ladies. And no, poor Will, he gets up and he's like, what did you say? Oh no. And they say, Lady Nera Elena Darcy. And Lauren's face is like, and then they continue. The family found her bedroom wrecked, blood everywhere, with nothing but her heart on her bed and a purple hyacinth right beside it, of course. Nobody heard anything overnight, which is really strange, considering there were signs of a fight in the bedroom. Well, then, I wonder.
Like that, no like whispering to each other with like buckets of the blood, just being like tiptoeing around the room, painting the blood everywhere. But if anything, this also like beefs up Kieran's reputation as well, right? Because it's like, wow, he came in, there was a struggle, but he kept it quiet and got her out of there in the middle of the night. Like it kind of reaffirms his position in the organization as well, which could be beneficial for him and his goals in the long run.
That's a good point. Show off at the same time.
I was kind of surprised that they didn't find out this from like a briefing, because I would have expected it to be such big news, you know, that Herman would have said it.
Right. Yeah.
Maybe I just want more Herman screen time. I don't know. He's getting better. Okay.
I've never heard anyone say that.
Like he's getting better, and honestly, good for him.
Wow. Listen, I've always defended Herman as like neutral, but it's very rare to have someone who doesn't hate on Herman. This is impressive.
I think he gets so much hate because he holds Lauren accountable. And honestly, I think Lauren needs to be held accountable more often. But also, I think it would have been like really interesting if they did it during a briefing and then Will just like completely broke protocol and just left during the briefing, and we could also see Kim there.
Yeah, I was like waiting to see if Kieran was in the room while we talked about this.
Oh my god.
Hilarious. Terrible.
I think Will would have strangled him.
Well, no, but he doesn't know that Kieran's purple hyacinth, but I just wanted to see how Kieran would be like, oh my gosh, really?
He would just say like like they make eye contact across the room, like, and like Will runs off, but then Lauren's just there like comedy gold. But I get like why they wouldn't do that, like, you know, they're trying to keep like the tone of the scene and not kind of make you like laugh in the middle of it. Like it is a heavy scene, it requires it to be taken like 100% seriously. There's no comedy basically in this episode, which I appreciate as well, because one thing about comedy is that you need to know when to throw it in, and like the comic could obviously be very funny, but like, you know, you have to use it at the appropriate moments. You can't just throw it in the middle of a really heavy scene that just kills tension.
I agree. And this scene...
sorry, please go.
No, it's fine, go ahead.
Okay, the comedy is what we imagine about Kieran and Nera doing to fake the death.
Yeah, and Kieran just standing awkwardly at the side with his coffee, just being like...
Yeah, I'm glad they didn't make it comedic, because this whole part with Will is breaks my heart. So they continue, but why would he leave only her heart? If there was no body, she might still be alive. Maybe they took her as a hostage. If it was indeed the purple hyacinth, I'd be surprised. Nobody survives that sadistic monster. And now Will, poor Will, he has his hand in his mouth like he's about to throw up. And he's kind of mid getting up from the chair, and they're still talking. Bet they're trying to send a message to the royals, going after a court lady just after we took over the Devil's Den. And he's just like, and then they say the queen might be next. And it's like, he's grabbing his hair, he's gritting his teeth, grimacing. Things are going to get real ugly soon. And then he just gets up and like lurches away from the table and runs out the room. Lauren says, Will, but she doesn't go after him. I don't know, at least the scene ends. It doesn't look like she went after him.
How many more people is this boy going to like lose?
So here's Lily said this really good theory, which I think was Lily. She said, what if, you know, we've been talking about how Lauren has been withholding information from Will already for a while, right? Obviously, like Raphael, she didn't tell him about Raphael. Now we know that she knows that Darcy isn't really dead, and he didn't tell her that. She didn't tell him that. So Lily was like, what if Raphael is captured by the Royals? Will goes to visit, finds out that Lauren is Loon, blah, 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 blah. And is like, and that's what turns him into the betrayer. Which we speculated about Will being the betrayer already.
I forgot that theory was still around, honestly.
I forgot all about the
so
betrayer
long.
period.
Yeah, I forgot Hecate prophesized that in general.
Right.
I think, yeah, I think Will is a little bit overdue for not necessarily a villain arc, but definitely questioning a lot of the people around him. Because, you know, he's going to find out who Kieran is eventually. He's going to know that Lauren has been lying to him for a while. And I, for one, was not necessarily super happy with how easily Kim and Will just accepted Lauren being Loon in 111. Because they're kind of like, okay, I mean, it's not like your actions kind of led up to one of our co-workers being left in a hospital in critical condition. It's fine, don't worry about it. But I think Lauren's actions do have a bit of irresponsibility towards, like, around them. And, you know, the vigilante work that she did as Loon in season 1, especially with like kidnappings and even getting involved in a death, I think it's really good if Will or Kim start to question her about it, because we haven't necessarily seen her friends kind of hold her accountable in any sense. But I think it'd be very interesting if they did, and I've been hoping they would since the season began.
I think that's fair, and I think out of the two, it's definitely going to be Will, because I think that Lauren and Kim have like a stronger bond of like, well, you're my best friend, and even if you're wrong, like, I'm gonna be there for you. Where I think Will is more of like the, you're wrong and I'm angry and we're gonna tell you you're wrong, but I'm still going to love you kind of a friend, you know?
I agree.
That's like this.
But
so I hope he figures it out. Oh, go ahead.
Sorry. It's just like, you know, again, as we were saying with like Raphael, you know, Lauren didn't tell him about Raphael. Lauren didn't tell him about Loon. And because Lauren didn't tell him about these things, some stuff happened that maybe like Will could have stopped. And Lauren can't, I guess she can't hold off forever. She still hasn't bit that bullet, and everyone else is kind of taking the fall for her trying to involve and not involve her friends in with her Loon business at the same time. Can't have the cake and eat it too.
Yeah, at some point the other shoe needs to fall, and like things need to kind of blow up a bit in the friend group, I think. But like obviously in the end they would probably come back together, because you know, like recognition of like her really like trying to do it for the greater good and like coming from her understanding and stuff. But I feel like she needs to kind of feel the consequences of their anger at her for that. And I think that would like, again, inject a lot of realism into the story again. Like, you know, kind of show that like Lauren's mistakes do have like lasting consequences, and they do allude to that in 111 itself, where it's like the stuff that happened in the factory and all the things after did have like further consequences, and I feel like including personal consequences, not just like the plot consequences, could be a really good like kind of rich way to kind of, you know, have a bit more tension and drama in the story, and like, you know, again, more realism for our very flawed but beloved protagonist.
Yeah. Oh, sorry, Amanda, did you want to say something?
Yeah, it's like what you say, actions have to have consequences, and I think it has to have like weight, meaning what you do has to have an effect, and you're right, there's a certain like, it goes on the scale, like you're putting it down on this side of the scale, you have to have a counterweight at some point to balance it.
Yeah, I think one of my grievances with Lauren in this season so far, disclaimer, I think this could very well possibly change, is that I feel like she just doesn't face enough consequences anymore, because she's been getting away with like more and more stuff, and yet less and less people seem to care. You know, like the factory arc. I was like, dang, I really would have expected Kim to maybe hold it against her for a little longer, especially seeing how Kim turned on her during it. Or maybe like Will, right? Because he's just always left out of things. Like, I don't know, it's I feel like Lauren can't be questioned anymore in a sense, and I'm not really sure how to explain it. It's a mix of how her friends don't really seem to hold any of the things she does against her, and also how we haven't really seen the hypocrite arc for a while. Like I wouldn't say that's been relevant since maybe season 1 or early season 2. And so now we don't have Kieran really holding her accountable either, because that was like, no, you're also involved in this, you know, you have done these things. And so we've kind of, this is where it sticks out to me the most, because we've kind of seen Kieran grapple with this monster complex, right? But the mirror of it with Lauren, which is the hypocrite thing, it doesn't really follow as the monster one does. And so I've been thinking about that one recently, and it's kind of just made me feel like Lauren will literally get away with anything, and her friends are like, will just accept it easily. Even like, I think it was 42 where Kieran was like, I don't think it's safe for you to be doing this anymore. She resolves that in like an episode, and while it might come back, it probably will come back. It's just like, it felt like it had a bit of an emotional climax as a conflict in the episode that it was like brought up to her. And I was just like, Lauren is like dealing with a lot of these personal conflicts very easily, and to some extent it just becomes a bit tired, I think, because I would like to see these things more in depth.
I think like part of it too is they're all so busy and overworked and tired, like you don't have time to process your emotions. It's like you just need to keep going, and you're like, you know what, I'm gonna like bookmark that for later. I don't really like what's going on, but we need to keep pushing forward to find out who Loon is, or find out who all these people are doing these crimes. So I think that they do have those problems with Lauren, but they're gonna need to address that later when they're not so tired and emotionally exhausted already.
I hear. Yeah.
I would just love to see more of her facing the consequences of her own actions, and kind of showing that like she's not perfect, even though she might have improved in some aspects. I feel like she just needs to get over the hurdle of trusting her friends and the people around her, which we'll get into later, when I think that like this whole thing is the great opportunity to get so late into the mix and let them know about these things. But also, like, you know, Will is a bit of a wild card considering how like emotionally attached he is to the current situation. But yeah, I feel like this should be the thing that like really begins to get that ball rolling. Her telling them blowing up, especially Will potentially, her kind of having to deal with that, and seeing us seeing her having to deal with that, but then eventually them kind of resolving it, coming together to like take it down. I would like to see something along those lines. Not in that particular order.
I think sorry, something just happened. It's kind of loud. I think Will definitely has it in him to be very pissed at Lauren, because like, you know, first time with Raphael, it's like, okay, I can understand it, but this time, second time, girl.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we theoretically don't know what happened after the scene ends. Like, maybe she went after him, like, but probably not. But we'll see, I guess, next couple episodes. I
would love if like we got that, where it shows more of the end of that scene in the next episode, where maybe like she gets Kim and Will to the cave and Nara's there and they're like, what's going on? And that's how we found out. That would be really interesting.
Funny that they tell, you know, Will, who she met like twice rather than her parents. So yeah.
Yeah. I feel like
All right, so now we switch to another scene. We have this beautiful home, red roof, it's moon, nighttime, and we have Redcliff being thrown against the bookcase. Flying out.
Quality content.
Let's go. Sorry.
Yes.
I support violence against this man.
Fwoot, why don't you read this section? All your dreams coming true. You literally drew a picture of this.
I did. Okay, wait, 1 second. Okay, so we have him thrown against the bookshelf. There's a crash. Books are falling up over the place. He looks up and he's like, Bella, wait. And oh my god, I was not prepared. I was not prepared for what I like when I was scrolling this. We see this absolutely magnificent panel of her, like, you know, teeth bared. She's yelling at him. She's about to sucker punch him in the face, you know.
We should all do her face.
I can't do it. One thing I think nobody can like disagree on. Everybody has to agree on this. Season 3 has had the best facial expressions. Like Bella's, the range of emotions you see in this woman in this one episode, and like the detail, and like you feel like these emotions like in your heart. It like squeezes your chest. Like me, I was just feeling so much empathy for her. Like I could feel her rage, her despair, her like sadness, her like disbelief. And it's been so good. She's killing it. Also, this panel makes me remember I do support women's rights, but I also support women's wrongs, and this woman's wrongs in particular. And I cannot wait to see them be committed in 4K.
Yeah, she's literally going ham at him. She's missing a knife in her hand, which I'm a little bit disappointed about. You know, I would have liked her to see him stab him up a bit. You know, Redcliffe skewers for dinner.
I feel like this is more visceral though. Like a knife, she says it later, it's too fast, basically.
Yeah.
Like she wants to get that out. She wants to get her hands bloody and in his flesh. Like she wants that personal contact.
There's something like truly satisfying about just punching something repeatedly.
Hold on.
I'm sure she's daydreamed about this too. Just like how many times he's threatened Nira. She's probably thought about this so many times, just beating the crap out of him. Yes.
She has been waiting and lurking for the right moment. I need to find I love this episode so much because of like this one scene. Not just because I predicted it, like not just his grabbing her hand, because as she punches him, he grabs her fist. She still punches him anyways.
I know, right? It's like did not have any effect at all.
You know, the sucker punch, and she's like, "It was you." And I remember a lot of debate last episode over whether it was actually Redcliffe who ordered the hit. I thought it was Redcliffe who ordered the hit, and I was like, "That's kind of stupid of Redcliffe," because, like, yeah, this is what happened. But also it's very likely that it's the leader just trying to get Bella to take care of Redcliffe for him.
I mean, he did. Looking back, because someone pointed this out like later that day, they were like, he was talking about like recontacting Apostle 4 about dealing with the spy, and it was Apostle 4, and then it was Messenger 4 who gave Kieran the order. So it could very well be that, but I could also see it being like shenanigans. But also, I was the one who also said that like him killing Nira is stupid because he loses his leverage and now has the killer that he created vengeful and looking to get revenge. But like this episode, as we later see, he is so confident in his ability to turn the situation around immediately that like he's just kind of lets her beat him up, lets him pull the knife on her, and then he just says the words that he knows will like completely like destroy her and get her to like not try to murder him at that moment. But I still think it's a stupid decision in the long run. Like once she calms down and gets a clear head, she's going to think of a plan to get rid of him and make him hurt again. And again, it's going to be great. But like, sir, unless you have some other like 5-brain plan like going for this, like you made a choice, and that was a choice.
So yeah, Bella punches again. Redcliffe ducks, and he's like, "Bella, stop! Where you been, Loca?" Okay. Then she knees him. And he coughs. He grabs her wrist again, and she's just completely disgusted. We see it disgust, and she throws him down, and he's like, Belladonna. Or she doesn't throw him down. She just like
She
pulls
picks
her
him
arm
up.
away. It kind of
picks
looks
him
like she
up.
throws him down.
Yo.
Wait, crap. Yeah, and then she puts her hands together, interlaces her fingers, and then just like slams it on his back. And then pulls him up by the collar. Oh, she should do that to me. I'm kidding. Or am I? And she just holds him up, and it's such like a great contrast, because especially in like episodes like 124, you can really see how small Bella is compared to him. And here, yes, Bella is kind of smaller as she holds him up because he is taller than her in the frame, but she's in complete power here. She's lifting him up, but it's not like how she would have in the past. It's like, no, she's about to throw him right back down.
I was surprised that Redcliff, I kind of thought he wasn't even fighting back really, or he's barely fighting back, because I was like, whoa, this is not evenly matched. But I don't know, maybe Redcliff really is just such a softie. I don't know.
He seems like he could have been strong back in the day, but he's allowed his luxuries and his the fact that he has people who now do that for him to kind of soften him a bit, so that he didn't need to potentially. Because I think the thing that really made him an asset to the Phantom Scythe was his charisma, his ability to kind of bring people in, like, curate the love of the masses with his persona of like this philanthropist who built himself from the ground up, whatever, all that. So like, I don't even really see himself as being someone who really focused on the physical aspects of, being strong, like physically. I feel like his thing is always like commanding a presence that kind of pulls people in, keeps him there. He knows how to manipulate people to use them. He's got Raphael and a bunch of the other circus, not all of them probably, but a bunch of them working this as well. So it's like, yeah, I don't see him as really being one to focus on combat. He's just a soft little man who's getting his shit rocked by Bella, and we love to see it.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. I've never seen him as a fighter. I've always like thought that he like surrounded himself with those people who could do that for him.
I guess it kind of just speaks to his character, right? He can make all the threats he wants, right? But if he actually goes into a fight, he's getting his ass owned. But yeah, so she kicks him across the room. He crashes against a bench, sofa looking. No, he crashes against a coffee table. And he tries to pick himself up, and he's coughing, and she pulls him up by the hair, and she says, or she tells him in his ear, "It was you. It could have only been you. You took her away from me, and I'm going to make you pay for it." And he's struggling to say, or he's struggling to respond, and he says, "It's not what," and she whacks his face, and she's like, "Shut up."
Oh yeah.
Your word is just as worthless as you are. Piece of shit. And she kicks him again. Oh, this is such a euphoric episode. He coughs. Should I pause? Do you guys want to discuss it, or should I wait till the end?
Yeah, I'm just glad she has heels on.
Yeah, I'm curious.
Okay.
Yeah, go on.
Okay. And he says, "Listen to me." And she says, I said, "Shut the hell up. I am done with you, Albert." Sorry, this made me crack up because I can't take him seriously with his name as Albert. I am done with you, Albert. Done with your lies. Done being your puppy. This man.
What are we naming him instead? So
Redcliff.
Yeah, let's call him Redcliff.
Redcliff.
Yeah.
Albert just makes me think of
what first name would you give him?
I would picture a very refined name for him. I'd rather, like, I always say that he looks like Alucard from Castlevania, but I don't want to compare them because Alucard is a sweet boy who needs to be protected, and we love him dearly. And he's nothing like this bad trash man. So I'm down to just give him his last name. Doesn't deserve a name. Let's just call him his last name.
All right. Oh, Redcliff. Okay.
Bella reaches for her knife, and Redcliff's on the ground, and she's kneeling over him, and she says, "You should have thought twice about angering the monster you created. You've been arrogant enough to think this blade would never turn on you, haven't you?
By the
Don't
way,
worry.
I love that setting and that composition where like she's on top of him, she's holding his neck, right? It could be seen without the knife as like tender, lovers, but nope, there's that knife.
And she does have her foot on his like throat as well. She's got her knee up like this
on his chest, right?
Yeah.
Well, some people like that, I guess.
I don't know if I'd call it lovers though, because they've been very much established to have like that kind of parental almost dynamic.
Right. No, I'm not saying that they are lovers. I'm saying the scene of typically when you have someone holding your head and on your chest, it's like romantic.
Or like maybe you're caring for them. Maybe they've been injured and you're trying to help them. And no, she's doing the injuring, which, great change of pace.
Oh my God. I love it.
The scene also really reminded me of the scene of when she was a kid and she was about to kill her father.
Oh.
Like,
yeah, looming over a body laying down.
With the knife.
Yeah.
The same knife.
The same knife. It's like killing her second father.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Yo.
To see that.
that's
it's probably gonna happen.
But then it kind of begs the question, like, she doesn't kill him now. And there's been theories that she didn't actually kill her bio father. That's interesting. I would love to see her actually kill this one though.
Oh, 100%.
I need it. Yeah. But yeah, so she says, "You've been arrogant enough to think this blade would never turn on you, haven't you? Don't worry, I'm not going to use it yet. That would be too easy, too quick. You don't deserve a quick death. I'm going to kill you, but first I want to make you suffer."
I love the unhinged eyes that she has right now. I've seen my friends sometimes have those eyes. My one friend, she calls them the crazy eyes. I've seen it twice in my life. It was terrifying and with good reason. And it very much reminded me of this. So I was just like, ooh, she's gonna do some. She means this with every fiber of her being.
You guys know that one? Sorry.
No, done.
You guys know that one panel? It's from the prologue or something, like one of the early episodes where there's a guy who's like crucified on a scythe. I want Bella to do that to Redcliff. Mindy, are you good?
I'm so sorry. Yes, the lack of vitamins.
You're good.
Gotta get that B12.
Gotta eat your spinach.
That's crazy. Anyway, I did have a question. What did you guys think of her leaving him alive? Because I was like, well, if you leave him alive, he just has the opportunity to cause more damage.
Honestly, I feel like the quick death thing, like, you don't deserve a quick death, is kind of just like the plot needs him alive for things later down the road, so they can't kill him now. Even though logically, I think Bella would have killed him now. If he didn't have greater plot relevance down the road, he would be gone at this point.
I don't know if this is just my reading. I'm sorry. I don't know if this is just my reading, but I kind of took it as like she's not going to kill him now, but I didn't see that as she's leaving him in his house to live his normal life. No, I thought she was going to maybe take him to some place and maybe like do some unsavory things to him for several days or weeks or however long she personally feels necessary, and then she'll eventually kill him. And maybe even not, well, we know that the knife with the venom is not the best way to go, so she could probably kill him with that and be happy. But I always pictured it as like she fully planned to like take him and like torture him potentially for this after this, but then he flipped the situation around because he knows exactly how to manipulate her, and it was just like broke my heart to see. But yeah, I think had he not said that, he would have been fully like beaten to a pulp, like worse than Kieran in 91 or 90, whenever it was. And yeah, I feel like that's what we could have seen. I didn't see it as I'm gonna leave you alive in your house to do your own thing and mind your own business. I was like, no. Or she would have just maybe tortured him until the morning, then killed him and dipped. But who am I to say? That was just how I read it.
Yeah, no, exactly. Especially because she's one of the few people who actually know that he's apostle. I forget what apostle number he is.
7.
Yeah, 7. So I feel like she could also just bring him to the underworld, get him tied up there, and everyone's gonna have a go at him. He's an aristocrat. Everyone's angry at them right now. I feel like she could use that to his advantage, or to her advantage, because it's not like he's gonna tell everybody that he's an apostle.
Mm-hmm.
But he is
cancel
beloved
him.
by the masses, though. Like, he's
Mhm.
like one of the people that they actually like. But if it's revealed, like, all the things that he did and was involved with, maybe that could, like, you know, turn a mob on him. Wouldn't that be nice to see?
She'll
the
cancel
people
him
that...
on twitter.com.
Nah, Elon will reinstate him eventually.
So Redcliff responds, the knife is like literally right in front of his face, and he's like, she was a spy. And Bella tells him, I told you to shut up. And Redcliff is saying this as like, we kind of see this moment of sort of panic on Bella's face. And he says, she was a hound working for the queen. And Bella slaps him again. She's like, enough.
I thought she slit his throat, but no.
Mm-hmm. And Redcliff says the order came from the leader. And Bella's like full panic, full anger right now. And she's just like, enough. And he says, she was a hound. And she continues, I said enough. And she's just like continually whacking him and just beating him up. At this point, I thought he was dead.
My dumb comment, reason number like 5,000,003, where I wish Lauren was in the room to see whether or not he was lying about who gave the order. Just like a person, like, it was the leader. I'm like, but was it? Do we know? I think it was Redcliff, but it, like, next thing you know, it was the leader having a power play to turn Redcliff's best assassin against him, because that would be brilliant and make so much more sense.
Mm-hmm. And it kind of just, I feel like Bella's anger in this moment is very much fueled by Redcliff suggesting it was the leader, because she kind of does, I know we're all rooting for her to escape it, but she does kind of go from one unhealthy male figure to the next, whether it be her father to Redcliff to the leader. She just will switch over whenever it doesn't really work anymore. And so
there's also the fact that she was working against him this entire time, wasn't she? Because she was going to expose his plot, but it's been exposed and she's kind of been falling back into him. But we know that she's turned to the leader now as her main person. But now, if the leader was the one who made the order, it's like, who is her rage going to fall against? It's probably going to stay Redcliff, in my opinion. But, like, interesting question to see him kind of pull that out, because I think diverting her anger to the leader is in his best interest.
Yeah, and it's interesting that sorry, I completely forgot what I was gonna say. It's interesting that, like, this entire, like, she just, every time she switches, right, and she thinks that she's finally safe in a sense, something happens, and she's kind of forced to go against herself in a way. Like, the leader in this case would be betraying her after she kind of placed some trust in her. And I think that notion that it's happened again just makes her more angry, and she just takes it out on Redcliff, right? That she just can't escape it, that all these men are just trying to use her in the end.
Yeah, it's like, no matter how well she does, no matter how many things she's willing to risk or take, she's just never good enough to be up there with the rest of them.
They just continually take advantage of her, and she can't escape it. It doesn't matter who she follows. None of these men will actually truly value her. And so we see her hand dripping blood, and she's over Redcliff's limp body, and it's not necessarily clear who's huffing. And then we see her panting, and Redcliff, because he doesn't know how to shut the hell up, even when he's like very close to death. I would be more concerned with getting some philosophical last words out, but I guess he just has to stir up more shit. He says, a hound, she would have never understood you. She would loathe the very thing that you are. Report the second she'd learned the truth. And he's like completely beat up right now, like black eyes, cheeks full of blood. He is like blood dripping from his mouth. And Bella's just in denial, and she says no. And Redcliff says, she would have hated you. And Bella starts shaking, and you see like what was just anger and just complete like dead stone serious, right? She immediately just starts to crumble in this point, and her eyebrows furrow together, now not out of anger, but rather just fear that Nair wouldn't have accepted her. And she's like, no. And Redcliff says, it never could have been, Bella. You knew it. And we go to Bella small again, and Redcliff much larger, even though he's the one on the ground. And he says, you just didn't want to face it, but you know that I'm right. You and I, we could never be one of them. We are too far gone. She never would have loved you had she known. Mm-hmm. And sorry, I'm just gonna go to the end so we can talk about it. Mm-hmm. And Bella stands up and she's like, no. And she stumbles backwards. And she runs outside down the hallways. And the narration says, you can try to run, but you can only run so far. And she's just completely sprinting through all of the hallways of the mansion. And the narration continues and says, because in the end, you're still a prisoner of the truth. And she runs outside, gets fresh air. The narration says, you're still an assassin. Naira is still dead. And we see her grasp the balcony and she's over the sea. And it says, Redcliff is still right. And she falls to her knees and she's just crying her eyes out, like she's completely broken. And she wails into the night with tears just streaming down her face, falling to the ground. And we end the scene with her grasping the little pillars of the balcony as she sobs to herself.
Well, we got Bella being emotional for once.
Emotional damage.
I took it personally.
Yeah, no, I know that like she was beating the crap out of him physically, but I think he really did almost win that fight. He really just used his words against her, and I think he really threw those last couple of punches in there.
It's crazy to see that like no punch that she threw at him had even as much effect as just that like handful of words that he said to her, because he's known how to manipulate her for years, how to make her make her act in the way that he wants her to act, and he knows her like he knows her probably almost as good as Naira does potentially, because he's known her for so long. He's created her basically, and he knows every single one of her insecurities and is able to just press at them. And even though he is beat up and bleeding on the floor, he has all of the power in that relationship and can really just twist her head and make her completely fall apart without even like lifting a finger.
It's very interesting how, sorry, did I does someone want to go?
I'm done.
Okay. It's very interesting how this episode has a lot of parallels to the episode we don't talk about. And quite a few people have pointed this out, especially with like, you know, Bellman invoking like the monster you created, right? Very much tying into Kieran being like, oh, I'm a monster, you know? And in the episode that shall not be named, Kieran is very much going to the dark side, right? He's like, fine, if everyone thinks I'm the monster, then I'm just going to be the monster. And we see that with Bella in this episode, where she's like, you made me the monster, so now I'm gonna be a monster, right? And she kind of turns it against him. And I think, sorry, I had something where I was going with this. I think it's so interesting that what makes Bella the most afraid in a sense is that no one will actually ever accept her because she is the monster, right? She's like, she emphasizes so much that she's like past the point of no return, and then she immediately recoils whenever when Redcliff invokes Naira's name, and I guess you really see how the PS is like, you know, attachments are your weakness, right? Because they try to make these monsters, right? They try to make Bella and Kieran completely unemotional killing machines, and it's when Bella's attachment relationship, you know, gets invoked, that's when she just can't do it anymore.
Yeah, no, definitely. And I think that that's like the main point of why they try to recruit kids at such a young age, or they just steal children because that's all that they know. And for like Bella, like her life was awful and miserable, and she was abused by her father. And like she's mentioned so many times, her life is so much better than it ever, in her eyes, could have been or would have been, if Radcliffe hadn't come into her life. So for her, like, it's just crazy to think about that this is the best life for her, being manipulated and put down and used by Radcliffe. So it really is heartbreaking to see him even be able to like beat her down, even though he's not strong and he's not physically capable of doing it. He still knows what to do because he knows her past and her traumas and all of the things, like you said before, that make her feel insecure about herself.
Mindy, what do you have to say? Sorry, I noticed you nodding off. Mindy?
I'm so sorry. Where were we?
Just like, what are your thoughts
like,
about
all
like
on camera, like Mindy just napping?
It's not the first time. It's okay.
I know. I usually on real.
What are your thoughts about like Redcliffe being able to like just make Bella fall apart by just talking to her about how Nair would have never loved her if she knew the truth?
Well, it's clever, and you know, the most hurtful thing you can say is the truth, right? Is the thing that actually is the person that was thinking about it before, right? Because Bella has probably been thinking, you know, oh, I rejected her first before she could reject me. That's probably a big reason she broke up with her. Yes, I think that, you know, the truth hurts. But I was curious. I didn't know that Bella didn't know that Darcy was a spy. I thought that she would have known that.
So, I think she did, because actually no, it's true. I wanted to kind of build off the truth thing, because in the past I've kind of been doubtful of Redcliffe. I'm like, oh, he's just doing that to manipulate her, whenever he was like, oh, she would never love you if she knew what you were. And then that was I can't remember which episode number that was. Episode 138, where he kind of repeats to her what we saw in this episode about how Naira doesn't know about Bella's position, but if she did, would not accept her. And at that point I was like, yeah, he's manipulating her. But in this part, I feel like almost he's projecting onto her, because he invokes both of them at one point, where he's like, where is it? You and I
will never be one of them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I was like, oh, maybe he has some self-esteem issues here, which would explain why he needs to take it out on everyone else. But also, I feel like this is a very poignant scene for Bella, because although it's not really explicitly said, this is the moment where she kind of realizes that she truly has no one. Because Redcliffe, she's cutting ties with Redcliffe. She's potentially cutting ties with the leader.
And she's about to go beat the shit out of her friend for murdering her girlfriend. So
and it's not really mentioned, but it's known that the purple hyacinth was the one who killed Naira. And so this person that she thought she had a bit of camaraderie and you know, together till the end kind of mentality with, has turned against her in a way and betrayed her in a sense, even though they don't. I feel like she would have expected kind of it to potentially happen, but maybe not from Kieran, right? Because to an extent, I think they did trust each other. And in this moment, she realizes, no, I don't even have Kieran, right? The person that was like, in the end, it's always you, and now I don't even have you. And here, even in Naira's death, she can't even properly mourn her, because Redcliffe is just telling her about how she worked for the Queen and how she was a spy and a hound. And when you say hound, it makes me think of police officers and police dogs, you know, and you know, the police are under the monarchy, and we've seen in the past how the APD's treatment of Grey Chapel orphans, which Bella is, you know, what it looks like and how it affects the kids. And so it's Bella being like, this, even this one person that I love and trust still works within the system that directly hurt me when I was a child and led to where I am today.
Absolutely. And it kind of makes me wonder too if Bella's going to go approach Kieran, or if she's just right away going to go and try to retaliate by killing Lauren, or pretty much Lauren, really, because that's the only person that he's close to.
Yeah, that's
love
my
to
one
see
thing.
some of
Is
that.
like, I'm like, Kieran, you better explain yourself real quick to Bella before you get yourself like poisoned.
Yeah, he needs to not be like Redcliff. Like as soon as he sees that flash of pink hair and the shine of that knife, he needs to be like, your girlfriend's alive.
She's alive.
She's alive. Don't kill me.
There are two scenarios I would love for this to go. If Bella approaches Kieran, I would love to see her show up at the cave and then Kieran and Nara are just playing like cards or something, you know?
Oh my
like
gosh.
Imagine you come in like just reckless blood staining you, right? Your knuckles are all bruised and you have a knife in your hand and you're like, Kieran, it's time to go down. And then he looks up and he's like, oh, hey, Bella. And Nara's right there, you know? They're just having tea together. Like the emotional whiplash for Bella. I'm like pissed that Kieran didn't tell her ahead of time. I'm like, Kieran, that was so foul.
I mean, I think it was like, as cruel as it is a smart thing to do, because it, like, she would not, that reaction, I mean, she could probably act very well, but I don't think that level of reaction would have happened if she had been let in beforehand. Yeah. And again, it is better that she's secretly alive than actually dead. So like her finding out after, I think she'd be like, you know, is better in the long run. And like, as hard as it is, like, that reaction kind of cements that, like, okay, Nara is really dead, and like whatever they're trying to manipulate out of Bella with killing her as well, or like the potential of that, will be negated and it'll be all good. But I really do want to see her get a few punches in, some, like, you know, some fighting between the golden viper and the purple hyacinth would be lovely to see.
I think Bella deserves to beat Kieran up a bit. Like, even if it was for her own good, I think she deserves it, you know?
Yeah, let Lauren and Nara watch too.
By the way, and then if you're in your scenario, this is interesting, because if she storms into the cave, it's like, what did you do to Nara? Suddenly, you know, it's like Nara just has real proof of how much she loves her. So it's just nice to see that.
Does Bella even know about the cave? I feel like nobody knows about the cave, but I feel like Bella could, like, has like the rage powers to kind of like figure it out, track people, or go after Lauren potentially, and then Lauren has to be the one to be like, Nara's alive. Wouldn't that be interesting?
The second scenario I was figuring is that Bella goes after Lauren and she's like, an eye for an eye, you know? And that's when
like, I have a story to tell you.
Yeah, and Lauren's like, in that moment, Lauren's like, oh shit, they were girlfriends.
Yeah.
Oh my god, they were girlfriends.
Like, that would be so funny. Like, imagine realizing that you're like one of your new friends pulls assassin bitches too because her girlfriend tried to kill you.
Gonna be the Spider-Man meme a lot.
Yeah.
All right, 5 minutes. Can we
wait? Oh, sorry. I have another idea. Imagine Bella about to kill either Lauren or Kieran, one of the two, and then Darcy shows up on the scene and stops her. And she doesn't think Darcy's real. She thinks she's just like a hallucination or something, because she's just been so like grief stricken. I would quite literally lose it.
It would be very sad. Ow. Why would you do that to me?
I'm thinking about it, you know?
All right. So now, sorry, I want to make sure we finish it in the time. We have this beautiful starry night and a clock tower and Lauren walking along the bridge. We see the roof homes, and Lauren's on the bridge. Her expression looks pretty grim. We have the mist from the mouth, and it's Kieran, you know, standing at the bridge. They've met at the bridge before. She's walking towards him, and you anticipate at first, you're like, well, Sheen's going to be like, Kieran, what have you done? Why didn't you tell me? She's going forward. He's looking at her. He has a serious expression. You know, you can't read it. It looks maybe a little scared. She walks towards him. It's like this intimidating position. He looks at her, she looks at him very grimly. And then the next one, there's a little smile on her face. And she's like, congratulations, Purple Hyacinth. You have successfully failed your murder.
I mean, we've been new, but this is a great way to end this episode.
So Lauren knew all along.
Love the progress we see. It's like she doesn't even have to hear about it now. It's not like the tower situation. It's like he told her beforehand his plan, probably, and then they probably worked on it together, I assume, and then got this done. And it's just like the progress in their relationship. Great to see the parallels and the progress.
I like to think Lauren kind of sort of meta realized that, like, if there's no body, they're not dead, or if there's no body, something's up, and it's probably PS related.
It's awesome. I was so happy. I was like so worried that there was going to be anger and upsetness and Kieran and betrayal, and Kieran would have to justify himself. I'm like, no, or would he lie to her? But phew, nope, none of that. They are finally a team and they're working together. It's great. Mm-hmm. Yeah. All right. Predictions for next episode. Bundin, you had a whole thing.
Yeah. No. My whole thing when I did the last recording, where I was like, Kieran's gonna come, he's gonna tell her about his thing and how he doesn't want to kill her and all these things, and it's gonna be beautiful and emotional. Next week now. I was wrong about the day, but it's gonna happen. We got Lauren pulling up that sheet on her bed, that art that Soph put up. I'm counting on that being next week now. I want it. We need it. I would love to see them figuring this out. Nayra's reaction to Kieran coming in, the whole setup, everything, and then like Nayra finding out that Lauren's dating the Purple Hyacinth. Great.
All right.
I really want a scene where Darcy just tells Bella over and over how much she loves Bella, because like the scene at the end of Pride and Prejudice where he's just, where I think I remember if he's whispering I love you or like just
he says it 3 times. It's beautiful.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So he says it a lot, because this episode we really just see how Bella's worst fear is just not being loved by someone, right? And I think we really need a scene where Darcy is able to shift that, because by the end of the episode, it's not just Bella grieving Nayra, it's her being like, truly, there is no one out there who cares about me. And it's really just emphasized by that long panel of her alone underneath the moon, right? It's literally just her out there in front of the sea, and there's no one to comfort her. And so I really need a scene where she finds out Nayra is still alive and Nayra just like holds her, right? Because I want a parallel to the scene where she's crying on the balcony, but instead of being alone, there's Nayra beside her there, and she's able to just like let it all out.
That's cute. Do you think we have time for like 10 seconds each? Favorite art panel? Mine is just smile.
Bella's first face when she's about to like punch him for the first time. Yeah.
All right.
Either the Bella balcony ones, or there's one where like when her face first switches to fear, I'm like, dang. Like when the one where she's like, no, it never, and Redcliff's like, it never could have been Bella, you knew it, because like it's like she's been kind of putting it off, but she also realizes like this is a bit realistic, and maybe she was just kind of running from it the whole time. And then we see her like actually running from it. You can try to run, you can only run so far, but in the end you're still a prisoner to the truth.
What about you guys? Fast.
Like 1 second left.
I think the chaotic like Bella scene where like her face gets crazy and you can tell like when she's drawn it's like these heavy lines, and like there's like all.
Thank you to my current patrons: Susie, Lady Libris, Lily, Molly, Veronica, Emily, Joe Rochelle, Saucy Tuggles, Anne Rose, Alexa, Misty, Joanne, Esther, and Watching You People, Emily, Jean, Jen, Kay, Lily, Beckett, Christine, Sadie, Teresa, Mrs. Castaldo, and Emma Pora. Your support is truly appreciated.